We are quite literally already halfway through the month of October, and I am just now ready to do my September wrap up. I just want to sit down and I just want to chat about it and like not make a big fuss over it. Hey, hi, hello. What is up? I'm Nala. So happy that you are here. Today we're going to talk about the books that I read in the month of September. It's going to be a pretty quick one, maybe possibly. Actually, I kind of like popped off in September, so maybe not. We're gonna start off hot, popping off fresh with a new series that I found that I really enjoyed. And there's one more book out right now, and I just have not been able to get my little grubby hands on it because it's a new release, and I'm not gonna buy, it's like the 9th book in a series. I'm not gonna buy just the 9th book in a series. I wanted to get it from the library like I've gotten everything else, but because it's been out for less than 3 months, I cannot put a hold on it if it's not in my library, like, because it would have to be transferred in from a separate library. My library doesn't have it, and they won't let me do it. So I'm waiting. It is Solo Leveling. So I read Solo Leveling 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 within the month of September, and I had to pace myself very slowly because I just wanted to eat these up like candy. They were so just delicious. I had such a fun time with them, and I am just so eager to see where the story finally pans out. So our character Jinwoo, they're in this world. It's basically like our world. It is based in South Korea, except for these portals have been opening up mysteriously all over the world. And whenever those portals started popping up, there were people who were becoming reawakened with powers as hunters. So they are leveled up in different tiers. So there's E rank, D, C, B, A, and S rank hunters. You know, the further they go up, the more powers, the more powerful they are. And they go into the portals and defeat the monsters that are within them. I think it's like within 7 days or something. If the monsters in the portal, the boss has not been defeated, then the monsters have the capability of coming out of the portal and into the real world. And so it's really important that people get in there and do the business and shut it down. So we have Jinwoo. He started off as an E rank hunter, which is very low. He was pretty much known as the worst hunter of all time. Something happens within this dungeon. It's like a double dungeon. They think that they've defeated the boss and they're continuing to go on. To find out there's actually another big bad in there. Something happens to Jinwoo and he becomes reawakened as this hunter who can continuously level up. He has no cap. He can continuously just level up, and he has access to, much like a video game, when you gain experience, you gain new titles, new rewards, and you can go on new quests and things. So he is able to do this within, it's not the portals and not the real world. He like goes into a whole totally different dimension and has his own plot and quest that he's been following. He is leveled up and is quite OP at this point. And so whenever he comes back to the real world, like he goes off and on between the real world, and people are like, are you the same person, dude? Just within a few months, you have completely like doubled in size and changed your physique. You are like a totally different person. That's insane. We're following along with that, and we finally, within book 8, are getting to see a little bit of this background as to like what that means for him to be solo leveling and like the bigger picture on that. I'm gonna give it 5 stars all across the board. And then I ended up reading Forged by Magic by Jenna Wolfhart. That this is like one of those really cozy kind of comfort fantasies where it's a little bit of a romantasy. I mean, they're high stakes within reason. They're high stakes that never really feel like they're gonna amount to being high stakes. You know what I mean? But it was a really fun time. It is about this assassin. It kind of was giving me like Throne of Glass vibes in the way that she is basically enslaved by this king to be his assassin, and he has sent her off to this island. There are to be known draugrs, and so she's supposed to find these draugrs, and then you get what I'm saying? There's this massive storm. So she washes ashore on this island. She kind of has like no idea where she is. And so he's there and he finds her washed ashore and is basically like, I know who you are and you're not gonna hurt anybody on this island. And then there's like this whole thing with like a trial. It's like a festival kind of trial where they compete in these games and whoever wins gets their one wish granted. I thought it was a very odd plot. It was cute. It was very cutesy. It's cozy. It's low stakes. really good for palate cleansing. There was never any spice in this, which I'm totally fine with. I am not a big spice person anyways. And I don't know, I feel kind of like conflicted about it. I gave it a 3 stars. I just wasn't a huge fan of the games aspect. I just feel like it maybe didn't make a ton of sense. But I will continue to go forward with the series because I did enjoy the writing. I did enjoy the characters. I just thought the games were kind of an odd choice. It felt like the plot movement was a bit forced at times, but I do really like the author's style of writing. And so if you like really enjoy That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, you'll probably really like this one. The only reason that I read this one was because Brooded Magic caught my eye, which is I think 3rd or 4th one within the series. So I just wanted to kind of use this one as a stepping stone to get to that one. No, actually Brooded Magic is the next one. And then I ended up reading something that like I didn't think I was gonna read. I didn't picture this on my TBR. It's called Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. And Terry Pratchett is an incredibly well-known author. If you don't know, he is the co-author of Good Omens with Neil Gaiman. He has this massive world series called The Discworld, which is like 20 to 30 books long. And it's got to do with, I think, vampires and witches and mages and all sorts of things. And so I started within this world of the witches. Within this world of the witches and wizards, I think the town was called Badass, actually. And in this town, in this world, wizards have always been male. There's never, ever been a female wizard. The way that the wizards pass down their magic is whenever they kind of like feel that they're gonna just pass on, like their time has been lived, they'll find somebody to pass their magic on to. And so this wizard at the very beginning of the book approaches this man and says like, hey, I was an 8th son of an 8th son. I would like to pass my magic on to an 8th son of an 8th son. I know you're about to have a child. Now let me bestow my magic upon them. He enters the birthing room and gives the magic to the child, this baby fresh out of the womb, without him knowing that actually that was a girl. And so there is a lot of like conflicting, like we've never had a girl be a wizard before. Girls can't be wizards. She can't hone in on her magic. And then as she gets a little bit older, we do notice that her magic does sort of come to her naturally. And there's also this sentient staff that is snarky, but without even saying anything. This staff has not said a single word. It's all through actions, and I love that so much. We have a very stubborn, bullheaded older witch, and witches and wizards are very different. Wizards are more book knowledge, and witches are more nature-based knowledge. Their magic really depends on more so head magic, I think is what it's called. They do like transform into animals. They don't transform, they are able to kind of like put their souls into an animal's body and take control of it that way, which was a very interesting aspect. It is very typical British humor. I did find the plot pretty simple, which honestly I don't think I really mind, really looking back now. It was pretty slow paced a lot, but I loved the dynamic between the stubborn old witch and this sentient staff. Like the way that she lectures the staff and just has these arguments with it. It's not even talking back, but like she fights with it and kind of scolds it sometimes, and like it has an attitude, but it's like more so of like a vibe and energy that you get from the sentient staff. It's good. I had fun with it. So then the next book that I ended up reading was an ARC, and it's called Song of the Darkwood by Sheila Masterson. I give it a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. I think it is one of the more interesting books that I've read in quite a while. The magic system is really unique. It's different. The plot is pretty different, and I really enjoyed that. We have this story that really intertwines together the classic of Red Riding Hood with Hades and Persephone, and it creates something like really unique and fresh that I've never really seen done before. And so the magic in this world is like really engraved with music, and it adds a really enchanting twist. It has gods and witches and a sentient dark forest. So for centuries, a balance has been carefully maintained between the gods of life and death, with a bargain set many years before. A red maiden is born every 5 years to be raised to become a new fairy of lost souls through the dark wood and to satiate the hunger of the wolf. Rowan is our main character. I think it was like 5 years old, found out that she had been chosen by the gods to be the new farrier. Maidens are raised within this tower, so she has somebody who's younger than her, I think by 10 years, because it skips a year for the maiden. And then, of course, she's got the one that's 5 years before her. And so they're supposed to serve out this term, I think it is of 5 years. And so far, none of the maidens have actually survived their 5-year gig. Rowan is she's pretty much like, yeah, I'm gonna meet my demise at some point. And so she actually has to start her turn early because the maiden before her gets by something, and so she has to kind of like figure out like how that happened, what happened with that. Found that Rowan's arc was pretty interesting. It's like one of rebellion and self-discovery against a really male-dominated religion, and she moves from being like a pawn within the gods game to really becoming a force of her own, and she's reshaping not only her fate but like the very nature of the god of death. And let's just talk about him for a moment. Like Connor, he's basically like the big bad wolf, and he is also the god of death, and I think that he is very charming, very elusive, and what you want from like an MMC. And I think that he was really well done because he has that sense of like being dangerous, but also there's the consent aspect that is very heavily regarded in this book, I guess is the right way to say that. There was some stuff that was left unanswered. There were some things not necessarily open-ended, but that just were never discussed after they were brought up. But the richness of the world and the characters like just really made up for it. So, oh my god, sorry, this nail is bothering the shit out of me. I just broke it. There's a lot of religious aspects to this, so if that's something that kind of like turns you away, maybe stay away from it. But if you like One Dark Window, like that eeriness and the darkness of the woods, but you also enjoy like the religious aspect of From Blood and Ash, this would be a really good one. There are some trigger warnings, so check those out. But it is like Little Red Riding Hood, Hades and Persephone, it's slow burn, sentient forest, touch her and die, dual POV, and some feminine rage. So, oh, the one physical that I have here. All of these other books I either read on my Kindle or they were library holds. So, The Well of Ascension. Look at this chunker of a book. How long would you think that this book is? It was like a 30-hour audiobook because I did listen to it through audiobook, and then also I picked it up physically sometimes to do some immersive reading. But all I have to say about that book is Brandon Sanderson could be like the only one to literally give you the twist within the first sentence of the book. Like, you completely forget that he gave you that huge key to the puzzle until the very end. So it was much slower paced, more political. We are obviously writing the coattails off of what happened in the first book, and they're kind of like scrambling to pick up the pieces after all of those events. If you read the first one, you know. And it's much more political heavy and not so much action based, which I expected. So that made it a bit slower paced. But like the last 100 pages, what the fuck? And I have high hopes that the third one will be magnificent. One of my favorite books I read recently. I have not stopped thinking. I've literally thought about this book every single day. Thrum by Meg Smitherman is so unique and different from anything that I've ever read before. And it has left me with this feeling that I just feel like I'm never going to stop chasing. And it is so short. Like, this book, it's like this big. It's so small. I think it was like a 2-hour read, maybe, if that. It's about this girl, Ami. She has been deployed into space. I couldn't remember the word. With this crew. And their whole thing that they're supposed to do is just contact life on other planets, within other ships, and just kind of like figure stuff out about them. They've been in a stasis, like frozen cryogenically, I think, for like the last 50 years, and they're finally in deep space, and she unthaws, and of course, wouldn't luck have it that when she wakes up, her entire crew is dead. And so she is alone in space, all by herself, obviously. No communication to Earth, no long-form communication, no short-form communication. And there is this alarm blaring within the system that has woken her up and is basically telling her that fuel is low and she has no way to communicate with anybody. So she doesn't really have much of a choice to do anything but to fix the communication, for short term at least, and then try and contact any life form that could possibly be around her. And what do you know? She gets an answer. So she ends up docking onto another creature's ship, and he goes by the name Dorian, like Dorian Gray. While she is on his ship, she starts having these visions and hallucinations. The ship seems like a labyrinth that is just never ending. It's always changing and playing with her mind, and Dorian is just so alluring and seductive. The way that the author Marcus's book is scared and horny. This is good for you. Fantastic. I would say it has like a little bit of spice, but the spice is there as like an element in order to further the horror plot. So it is a horromance. A horromance? Is that how it's pronounced? Like a horror romance? Which, like, I never thought that those two things would go hand in hand together, but the way that Meg Smitherman does it is just incredible. Absolutely love this book. I gave it a 5-star. No, 4.5? I should have given this a 5. I'm gonna bump this up to a 5 because I just have thought about it every single day. The only thing that is the downfall of this book is that it is so short. I would have wanted maybe like 50 more pages. And then I read, totally on the opposite spectrum, Only in Your Dreams by Madison Wright, which is the author of Off the Beaten Path. It is a part of the Mountains Are Calling series, which is small town romances. Like, I didn't think I was gonna love this book as much as I did, to be so honest with you. It was an arc. With some of these arcs, they're pretty hit or miss, and I thought this one was gonna be a miss just because it was so heavy on the analogies in the beginning, talking about like the color of her eyes comparing to whiskey, and the colors of her hair, the golden streaks in the sunlight was like wheat or honey or something. There was a lot of that within the first 2 chapters. Like, I want to say like around like 9 or 10 times this dude compares her to different types of foods in different ways, and that was, I could be exaggerating. I read this over a month ago. And so I was rolling my eyes heavily and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. But I pressed on because I really didn't want to do the author a disservice. And I'm so glad that I did, because I just assumed it was going to be a silly little fake dating romance where the girl just wants to make her ex jealous and needs to prove that she's worthy of love. But I mean, you know what they say about assuming. It definitely made an ass out of me because this book was actually really good. A 31-year-old Finley, she's a hopeless romantic, and all her life she's only wanted one thing, and that is to settle down and to live her life in a small town. Romance dream with the charming husband, the quaint home, the white picket fence, and the children to fill it with. Those dreams were ripped away from her pretty suddenly after her boyfriend of 2 years abruptly ends things 1 week before her brother's wedding. She is heartbroken and she is lonely, and she just gets absolutely smashed at said wedding. And so when she's on the brink of embarrassment, her brother's best friend steps in. Gray, he swoops in and he ensures that she gets home safe. He takes care of her. He holds her hair back while she is hurling chunks, and she asks him to stay the night. Nothing happens between them in that moment, although somebody is hoping that it would. The brother's best friend has been hoping that this would be like the catalyst event that would change the dynamic of their relationship, and it doesn't. And so 7 months later, everything has remained like the absolute same between them, and that is until Finley's ex-boyfriend waltzes into her flower shop to tell her that he is engaged and will be getting married in a month. After dude just told her that he couldn't settle down. Be so for real. And so whenever he makes a comment about her not causing a scene, she does the only thing that she can really think of and says that she's found somebody else and she's moved on. And in comes walking Gray. And so the boyfriend just kind of like assumes that Gray is the new boyfriend, and he's like, oh, I mean, that makes sense. And so they have to do like the whole fake dating shtick, yada yada yada. I love fake dating. And I thought that was gonna be it. I was not expecting like this family dynamic between Gray and his parents and this backstory and like the whole chosen family thing. Gray is a firefighter, and so there's like this whole found family aspect within that. Their exchanges and banter just felt like really natural, and I loved the conversations that they were having. They were very adult, and because I find with like a lot of these romances, the banter within them kind of just seems like a little bit immature. But with this one, it was definitely done well to their age, which I really enjoyed. And so we have a mix of like really supportive characters that just really feel like a village that makes you crave having people like that. I just wanted to give like a little side note here. I love that we completely avoided the whole trope of you can't date my sister kind of thing. Finley's brother is very fully aware that she is a grown-ass woman and can make her own decisions, and he doesn't have to do any of that. Oh, my best friend's dating my sister. Ew. So immature. And it didn't happen, which I'm so happy for. Yeah, it was really good. Small town romance, found family, it's always been you. Brother's best friend, fake dating, really good tropes. I had a lot of fun with that book. So that was really, really good. The last book that I read is How the King of Elfheim Learned to Hate Stories, which is from the Cruel Prince series. Everybody say hello, Carden. Last year I read the Cruel Prince series and thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, it was this time exactly last year that I read it, and I have kind of been itching for a little bit of a reread. And I'm like, I have so many other books that I want to get to. I don't want to reread it, but I do want to dive into the Cruel Prince world once again. I need to scratch the itch. And so I remembered that I haven't read How the King of Elfheim Learned to Hate Stories. And I'm so happy that I read this. It was everything that I have been wanting. It definitely scratched the itch that it needed to. I got a little bit of like a glimpse back into their world, and it was very much so Carden. Like the series follows Jude more so than it does Carden. But in this book, it follows Carden, and that's exactly what I needed. I would love to have a physical copy of that because the illustrations within it are just so beautiful, and I just thought it was great. Carden is just such a breath of fresh air. I love that world so much. I was like so in love with that series whenever I first read it. I actually printed out. I didn't only print out. I tea stained some papers to make them look kind of like old and aged, and printed Carden's letters to Jude. That's just how I needed to have something as memorabilia. They're around here. Oh, there they are. Can I reach that? I gotta read these letters again. Of course, the iconic and our favorite. Jude. Please, Jude. Oh my god, I need to read these letters again. These letters, they absolutely just like... the way that this makes me feel inside. I get butterflies just looking at these. If only like a man wrote me these words. Are you kidding me? That is all the books that I read in the month of September. Like I said, we're halfway through the month of October, and I am like fighting off a book slump, unfortunately. I don't know if it's the books or if it's just because my attention has been focused on other things, but we shall see how this month it goes. That's what I've read in September. I hope that my babbling makes some sense. I'm gonna go and reread these letters and giggle and kick my fucking feet over them, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!